Good morning. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me, Shreyansi Singh and Kanishka Sarkar. This is the show where we get you updates from within the country as well as across the globe. Also tell you which stocks you should be keeping on your radar as well. And speaking of stocks, Kanishka, let's take a look at the handover coming in from Wall Street.
Well, absolutely, Shreyansi. Well, very good morning, first of all. Now, let's take a look at the US handover. Well, US stocks closed higher for the first time in 3 days after the Federal Reserve kept interest rates unchanged and signaled that it is in no rush to cut, citing a resilient economy. Now, the Federal Reserve kept its benchmark overnight borrowing rate at 4.25% to 4.5%, a move that was widely expected. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained over 280 points. The S&P 500 rose about 0.4%, while the Nasdaq Composite edged up 0.3%. Now, these gains were supported by strength in tech stocks. The session, however, was marked by volatility as investors digested the Fed's stance on inflation and policy rate. Now, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell acknowledged that while the U.S. economy appears healthy today, the impact of rising uncertainty could emerge in the coming months. Now, investors are now looking ahead to other economic reports due to be released on Thursday. Now, weekly jobless claims data is set to be released before the opening bell, while the New York Fed survey of consumer expectations is slated for later in the day. Meanwhile, this stacked earnings week continues with energy name ConocoPhillips and media giant Warner Bros. Discovery scheduled to report their results before market open. Following that will be legacy media player Paramount Global, which is set to report its earnings later in the day.
Really, that's what we're looking at in terms of earnings then. But tell you what, let's shift the spotlight to oil prices then, because you do have a fall coming in as far as oil prices are concerned. You do have the Federal Reserve, in fact, that is seeing growing economic uncertainty, and investors are looking towards the US-China trade talks this weekend. That's something that there's a little bit of optimism around. So when you take a look at Brent crude, you do have a fall coming in of just about $1 a barrel, of 1.6% thereabout, and $61 a barrel is the kind of level that Brent managed to maintain. Regardless of this fall coming in, US WTI as well fell just about $1 as well. 1.7% downtick coming in for US WTI and a settle around that $58 a barrel level. Now, both benchmarks, in fact, plunged to 4-year lows this week after OPEC Plus decided to speed up output increases for the second time this year, stoking fears of oversupply at a time when you do have US tariffs that have already increased concerns when it comes to energy demand globally. The US and China, and in fact, like I mentioned, due to meet in Switzerland, which could be the first step toward resolving a trade war disrupting the global economy. So that definitely is something that we're looking at. According to analysts, you do have a volatility that is expected to persist on quicker than expected OPEC plus supply. That's been quite the concern, just like I mentioned, while US policy making remains unpredictable at this point. And that's also something that we're looking at. But moving on, then let's shift the spotlight to gold prices, because a fall of more than 1% is we're seeing even for the yellow metal, pressured by a firmer dollar and US-China trade talks optimism that is chipping away at safe haven demand. You do have the Federal Reserve holding those important interest rates steady. So just about a 1.1% thereabout downtick coming in for spot gold as well.
All right, then moving on to the big headline this morning. Federal Reserve holds rates steady in the 4.25 to 4.5% range. Now, the outcome, which was largely expected, is on expected lines. However, the FOMC flagged unemployment and inflation risks in the near term, as I pointed out earlier. A balancing act for the central bank as uncertainty continues to mount on the tariff and trade front, even as Chair Jerome Powell highlighted that the U.S. economy is in fact showing signs of resilience at this juncture. Now, Powell also shot down the potential of any preemptive rate cuts amid tariff-led inflation concerns. He said, and I quote, "Don't think we are in a hurry to adjust rates," end quote. Additionally, he also said that the ongoing talks with several trading partners could change the picture materially. Let's go across and listen into that excerpt.
Compared with the projections made in December, real GDP growth is stronger, the unemployment rate is lower, and inflation is slightly higher. As I noted earlier, today's decision to raise the federal funds rate is another step in the process of gradually scaling back monetary policy accommodation as the economic expansion continues. This gradual process has been underway for more than 2 years, and it has served and should continue to serve the economy well. What came out of that, it was first that there's no thought, I think, that changes in trade policy should have any effect on the current outlook. Our current framework for implementing monetary policy is working very well. We have excellent control over rates, and it's working, and it's, as you described it accurately. We haven't made a decision to keep that as our longer run framework.
All right, then that's a word coming in from Fed top boss. Moving on, then China's central bank and financial regulators announced sweeping policy steps, including interest rate cuts, as Beijing ramps up efforts to bolster growth amid mounting trade worries. In fact, the PBOC is going to be cutting the 7-day reverse repurchase rates by 10 basis points to 1.4% from 1.5%. Now, the lower policy rates will come into effect from today, while the RRR relaxation will be effective May 15. The officials, in fact, also announced measures to support financing for several key sectors, including the likes of technology and real estate, along with establishing of a 500 billion yuan re-lending tool as well. Not just that, the Chinese central bank, in fact, also reducing the mortgage rates. That is something that you're seeing under the Housing Provident Fund by 25 basis points. Meanwhile, rates on 5-year loans for the first-time home buyers will also be trimmed to 2.6% from 2.85%. So that's the update coming in as far as China's macro picture is concerned.
Absolutely. That's the update on China's economy. Meanwhile, all eyes will be on the meeting between US and Chinese officials in Switzerland. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent slated to meet his Chinese counterpart, while the Trump administration is considering exempting car seats, baby strollers, cribs and other essential items for transporting children from tariffs on China that are up to 145%. China has said that they will be entering the talks firmly opposed to US tariff hikes. They're also willing to participate in a dialogue based on equality, respect and mutual benefit. Trump, in fact, also has flatly answered no when asked at the White House if he was open to pulling back on the steep import duties that he's imposed to get China to the negotiating table. Now, apart from that, Trump's commitment to his tariff comes 3 days before US Treasury Secretary is scheduled to meet his Chinese counterpart in Switzerland to discuss the trade and economic issues.
Moving on, shifting focus to geopolitics, then amid escalating tensions between India and Pakistan, US President Donald Trump said that if he could do anything to help, I will be there, and wants the escalating conflict between the two countries to stop. Earlier, he also said that he hopes that the hostilities will end very quickly. Let's go across and listen in to what he then had to say.
I know both very well, and I want to see them work it out. I want to see them stop. And hopefully they can stop now. They've gone tit for tat, so hopefully they can stop now. But I know both. We get along with both countries very well, good relationships with both, and I want to see it stop. And if I can do anything to help, I will be there.
Please no more.
जिन्होंने ये हमला किया है, उन आतंकियों को और इस हमले की साजिश रचने वालों को उनकी कल्पना से भी बड़ी सजा मिलेगी। अब आतंकियों की बची खुची जमीन को भी मिट्टी में मिलाने का समय आ गया है।
ये नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार है, किसी को बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। हर व्यक्ति को चुन चुन कर जवाब भी मिलेगा, जवाब भी दिया।
On to the biggest story then. The successful Operation Sindoor, which was a precision strike targeting 9 terror camps in Pakistan and POK, has set off a wave of political, diplomatic and security activity. An all-party meeting has been called at 11 a.m. today, with Defence Minister Rajnath Singh expected to brief leaders across the aisle. Home Minister Amit Shah and Kiran Rijiju will also attend the meeting, but Congress is demanding that the Prime Minister himself address the meeting and take the opposition into confidence. On the diplomatic front, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has spoken to foreign ministers of France, Germany, Spain, Japan and Qatar. He has conveyed India's zero-tolerance approach to terrorism and thanked them for their support. Meanwhile, Pakistan has resorted to cross-border shelling in Kupwara for a second straight night. NSA Ajit Doval has warned that India will retaliate further if provoked. Now, control rooms have been set up across Kashmir to monitor the evolving situation. Last evening, the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh praised the armed forces for carrying out precision strikes on terror camps and targeting those who killed innocent people. Let's listen in.
हमारी भारत सेनाओं ने अपने अद्भुत शौर्य और पराक्रम का परिचय देते हुए एक नया इतिहास रच दिया है। साथियों, भारत की सेना ने सटीकता, सतर्कता और संवेदनशीलता के साथ कार्रवाई की है। हमने जो लक्ष्य तय किए थे, उन्हें ठीक समय तय योजना के अनुसार सटीकता से उन्होंने ध्वस्त किया है और किसी भी नागरिक ठिकाने, सिविलियन पॉपुलेशन को जरा भी प्रभावित न होने देने की संवेदनशीलता भी हमारी सेना ने दिखाई। यानी एक तरीके से देखा जाए तो हम कह सकते हैं कि एक तरीके की सटीकता, सतर्कता और मानवीयता यह हमारी भारत की सेना के जवानों ने दिखाई।
And that right there is the word coming in from Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. Of course, you do have an all-party meeting at 11 a.m. today, and that's something that we're watching out for. But tell you what, let's also go across to Shinjoy to give us a full roundup of the Operation Sindoor. Shinjoy, take it away.
Yes, first the surgical strike, then Balakot, and now this one. On each occasion, there has been extreme provocation. Pahalgam, let's not forget that 26 people died because of that terrorist attack. So India was forced to do this. India waited 2 weeks and hoped that Pakistan would do something about it. But Pakistan did not. And as a result, India had to strike, and 9 terrorist camps have been hit. And 2 terrorist headquarters among them. In the most important one, of course, is the LET headquarters in Muridke, which is very close to Lahore. And this is a clear departure, because this time, not only places, camps in POK have been hit, but places like Bawalpur, where the Jaish-e-Mohammed are very active, has been hit, and of course Muridke has been hit. So this means that it's not just POK, which is Indian territory, but also Pakistan that has been hit. And for good reason. Pakistani terrorists have come in and killed 26 of our people in the worst possible way. So what happens now? Right after that, of course, Mr. Ajit Doval, the National Security Advisor, called up leaders of 9 countries, the P5 countries, 3 countries in the Gulf, which is Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, and also Japan, and conveyed India's position that India has hit terror targets, not cities, not military targets, but terror targets. And now this has happened only because Pakistan didn't do anything for a fortnight. They didn't even attempt to do anything. Instead, they were in denial. So that's really what India has said. Now, there is an issue as far as what Pakistan will do, because Pakistan claims that they will hit back. What we hear is that India is absolutely ready. If Pakistan does hit back, India will be ready for it. That's the primary issue now. We also have to see what Pakistan does. There are no terrorist camps here. So if Pakistan has to hit anybody, it will either have to be a military target or something in infrastructure. And this is something the world will not be very happy about. But now we have to see what Pakistan does and when Pakistan attempts to do it, if it actually chooses to.
All right, then India is ready to hit back if provoked. Now, moving on, my colleague Yavar Bhatt has been tracking all the developments and the security measures in the region itself. Let's go across to him. Yavar, what is the latest that you're picking up?
In view of prevailing situation and the border tension escalation, the authorities have ordered vehicles to dispatch to the Baramulla, and right now we are reporting from that particular place where thousands of the vehicles have been dispatched, and it is in view of the prevailing situation. The authorities have also directed several private school heads in Sopore and Baramulla to immediately dispatch their school buses to Degree College, Baramulla. And since yesterday, these buses are stationed here, and we have been given the understanding that the authorities have also ordered to send buses, including many of the schools, many of the private, agencies affiliated with the transportations, so as the small and heavy vehicles are parked here. In view of the continuous, ceasefire violations and escalating border tension in the Uri sector, in the Kupwara sector, several measures have been initiated by the government, be it establishing of the control rooms across the Kashmir Valley or monitoring cells, which has been the boon in times of the emergency all across. But this measure has came in after there was a continuous, tension that have been witnessing and escalating in the Uri sector, which lies just close to this Baramulla, where right now.
Yeah, I will forget that update. So there you have it. That's an update coming in as far as security measures in Baramulla then are concerned. But moving on then, you do have reactions pouring in from countries around the world after the Operation Sindoor. Some countries, in fact, are calling for peace and dialogue, while others are standing openly with India. Israel has openly expressed its support for India. Times Network Group Editor-in-Chief exclusively spoke to Reuven Azar, who's the Israeli ambassador to India. Let's go across and listen in to a slice of this exclusive conversation.
Navika, it's only natural that following this terrible carnage that happened in Pahalgam, that India will exercise its rights for self-defense. And it's natural that Israel will stand with India, because we feel all too well what is the bitter taste of this kind of crimes that are committed against us. And therefore, I tweeted this from the bottom of my heart. I think that all Israeli people feel the same, and we feel that we have to stand against terror, because if we don't do that, this will only continue.
It has been continuing, and India has been facing this for several decades now, and even Pakistan has given away its worst kept secret with interviews that have come in the last week or 10 days from Pakistani ministers on various British channels, where they've said that they've done it for the West, the terror factories that they run. I want to ask you, the precision strikes, would you see this as an attack on Pakistan? Or would you see this as India exercising its right for self-defense after what happened, the manner in which religious profiling was done and the manner in which the Pahalgam massacre took place?
Look, this conflict between India and Pakistan is not our conflict. We support the decisions of the Indian government that is acting in behalf of the Indian people to do what they see fit in order to defend themselves. We don't have the tools to judge it, nor the will to advise the Indian government in any way.
The attacks actually happened despite the UN Security Council's General Secretary asking for deference and actually maintaining restraint. Do you think the world community at large understands the kind of war on terror that India has had to fight in this region?
Unfortunately not. I think that the world hasn't realized the nature of the terrorist threat. And we, as democracies that stand in the forefront of this fight.
Well, those are the comments from Israeli ambassador to India. But we also caught up with Vallabh Bhanshali, who's the chairman at Inam Group, who shared his take on India's Operation Sindoor on Pakistan. He says that terrorism is more powerful in Pakistan than democracy, and that India will continue to play the strategy game. Let's listen in.
Democracy has not been able to assert itself like, it has fortunately been in India and to a very large extent in Bangladesh, which is, also undergoing some trouble. But Pakistan is a singular failure on this front. And therefore, this war of attrition will continue until democracy really takes deep roots in Pakistan. India is not a warmonger by its character and by strategy. And I think this is no different, that India has taken its time and given a very measured response. I think we'll continue to, play the strategy game. So, I think country after country, India has been able to isolate Pakistan in every forum. And that is what is making Pakistan very restless. The statecraft is now, known only as terrorism. And that's what will, achieve India's goal of being named Pakistan a terrorist state and no more. So there's greater confidence that India's story is, unabated. It is continuing. So it's very happy to see that long-term investors are getting that vindication. So market will show that underlying confidence. And at the periphery, in the tactical world, it will have to continue to respond to this news-filled world. And what we have achieved in the last 34 years, despite our very noisy politics and, some unexpected changes that took place, I think it's a fabulous account of what can be achieved with determination and, should I say, acumen. That this trend of rupee strengthening, dollar weakening, it seems more tangible, more enduring this time than ever before.
Pakistan statecraft is going to be synonymous with terrorism. That's commentary coming in from Vallabh Bhanshali of the Inam Group. But tell you what, it's time for a very quick break on that note. When we come back, we'll get you a check going as far as the Asian markets are concerned. So don't go anywhere. Thomas, let's take a look at the Asian markets, and it's not a very strong handover, in fact, that we have as far as Asia is concerned. Just a tinge of green that you're seeing. Like you can see on your screens as well, 0.1% uptick coming in as far as Nikkei is concerned. That's also given up some of the gains from earlier this morning. In fact, South Korea's Kospi as well, that's holding on to 0.5% uptick at this point in time. There you have it, 0.6% uptick coming in for South Korea's Kospi. Even when you take a look at Hang Seng as well as Shanghai, similar moves coming in, because you do have Hang Seng that is up about 0.6%. When you take a look at Shanghai, that's the one that is up 0.3% at this point in time. When you take a look at ASX 200, that's the one that's flat with a negative bias, so not much of a strong handover coming in. As far as Asia is concerned, of course, you did have in terms of Qs, the FOMC holding its benchmark overnight borrowing rate in a range between 4.25% to 4.5%, and that's a decision that was largely expected. Now, in terms of what is expected back home, of course, yesterday you closed around 24,400, and currently what is being penciled in is a rather tepid start, so not much to expect in terms of what is going to happen in terms of a decline as well, but that's what we're penciling in at this point in time. Not a very strong handover from Asia.
Well, absolutely. Let's see how that pans out. Now, moving on, Prime Minister Modi has chaired the CCS meeting and cabinet meeting yesterday, and the outcome has been particularly positive for coal and power generation companies. My colleague Prakash is standing by with all the details.
Yeah, in a significant move, the Union Cabinet has decided to provide some sort of relief to the thermal power generation companies. In fact, that's given not to devise Shakti policy for allocation of coal to thermal power plants. So that's an important development coming in, as the decision has potential to help these companies securing coal linkages on easy terms. Essentially, the Cabinet has given its nod to two mechanisms. Under first mechanism, the power generation companies comes under central sector or state governments will continue to get coal linkages at notified price. Of course, it will include joint venture and subsidiaries of these companies. In a second move, the Indian cabinet has decided to provide coal linkages to any domestic coal-based power plants having a PPA. Along with that, imported coal-based power plants will also get coal linkages coal linkages at notified price for a period of up to 12 months on auction basis. These power plants can get coal linkages beyond 12 months, but up to 25 years by paying premium at above the notified prices. That's an important development coming in. Along with that, these companies have been given flexibility to sell electricity as per their choices. Of course, these are positive development for the thermal power generation companies, and the Coal India will be given necessary instructions to implement these mechanisms going forward.
All right, then moving on, now let's get you an update on the earnings front. Now, L&T is all set to announce its Q4 results for FY25, and all eyes are on execution and order inflows for the company. Now, as per our analyst poll, revenue is expected to go up about 12% year-on-year to around the 75,000 crore levels on the back of strong project ramp-ups in infrastructure and hydrocarbon segments. Now, apart from that, execution momentum is also expected to have improved thanks to easing supply chain constraints. EBITDA, on the other hand, is expected to come in around 8,040 crore levels, up about 11% on a year-on-year basis. However, margins is something that could remain flattish around the 10.8% level. This is as legacy fixed price contracts may weigh on profitability. Order inflows, which is a very key metric, are something that are projected to range between 80,000 crores to 1 lakh crore, driven by both domestic and international wins, especially in hydrocarbon and transport infrastructure segments. Now, the street will also very closely watch out for management commentary on FY26 guidance, capex plan, especially on the private front, which is yet to show its best. Now, apart from that, commentary on global risks like tariff impact, geopolitical volatility and commodity inflation is something that the street is watching out for.
Is what you should be expecting as far as L&T then is concerned. Tell you what, even Titan is also all set to report its quarterly results today. We do have Snehi who's standing by with an update on what is being penciled in when it comes to the street. A spike in finance costs is likely to dent the fourth quarter show. Snehi, tell us a little more about what exactly is being penciled in.
Well, yes, a good quarter four is what we're expecting from Titan. Remember, even when the company came out with its quarter four updates, they look like a good set of updates. On the standalone year-on-year basis, revenue is seen at 13,071 crores, an uptick of 16% year-on-year. EBITDA expected to go up by 17% YOY at 1,296 crores. Net profit also expected to go up by anywhere between 5 and 5.5% on a year-on-year basis at 828 odd crore mark. EBITDA margin, here we are expecting to see some pressure. We are penciling in this figure to be at 9.9% compared to 11% on a year-on-year basis. Some key expectations: the core jewelry EBIT margins could be impacted by high marketing costs. High single-digit same-store sales growth is what we're expecting to see, and they're also expecting a rise in finance costs given an increase in the GML, which is the gold metal loans rate for most jewelry companies, that has gone up. Remember, for Titan, this rate has increased to 4% now from 2.5% earlier, so this may have an impact on the quarter four PAT. Store addition, they've added 55 stores in quarter four, bringing the total now to 2,989. Remember, in the quarter four update, they have said that growth in quarter four they're expecting to be at 25% and overall FY25 growth at 21%. Overall growth for jewelry at 25%, watches at 22%, eye care at 19%, emerging businesses at 7% and Carrot Lane at 22% is what they have penciled in. Key factors to watch out for when the numbers come out: any outlook on gold and diamond prices, flip from the wedding season if they've seen how this has impacted the quarter positively, if at all, demand trends, profitability across segments and competitive intensity and product mix is going to be important to watch out for. So keep an eye on Titan when its numbers come out, but we're expecting a good set of quarter four numbers from Titan.
Thank you, Snehi, for getting us all those updates. Now, let's keep it with the earnings space. Asian Paints is also another candidate which is set to report its Q4 earnings. Let's go across to Rabinder to get us all that the street is expecting.
Well, as Asian Paint is set to announce its Q4 FY25 number, and the street is expecting a revenue at rupees 8,612 crore, reflecting slight decline of 1.5% year-on-year basis. And if we talk about PAT, then a PAT is estimated at rupees 1085 crore, marking a sharper drop of 13.5% year-on-year basis, and EBITDA is projected at rupees 1565 crore, down by 7.5% year-on-year basis. So overall, Street is expecting a muted Q4 number from Asian Paint. And if we look at the factors, then the decorative paints volume growth will be 4 to 5% as demand condition remains subdued, and the impact of rising competition was less, and the larger impact was due to weak industry demand. And benefit of 2 to 3% price hike at the end of Q2 is expected to be reflected in Q4 with a lower volume and value gap, and the demand remains challenging in urban while rural shall continue to improve gradually. And lastly, management commentary on outlook of industry demand revival, volume growth, and pricing competitive intensity and outlook for FY26 will be key monitoring.
Alright, and 3 Nifty 50 companies that are going to be reporting their numbers, that's L&T, Asian Paints as well as Titan. We told you what is being penciled in, but tell you what, it's time for a very quick break on the show. More news and updates on the other side, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back, you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now, and it's time now to get to the list of stocks that you should be keeping on your radar bright and early this morning. In fact, Rabindra is standing by with just that list.
Well, as Blue Star can be in focus, where company has announced its Q4 number, and company reported a revenue at rupees 4,019 crore, which was up by 21% year-on-year basis. And if we talk about EBITDA, then company reported EBITDA at 280 crore, which was up by 15.5% year-on-year basis. So overall, a strong set of number of Blue Star is coming in. And moving to next, Tata Chemical can be in focus, where company reported revenue at rupees 3,509 crore, which was up by 1%. So revenue was flat of Tata Chemical, and company reported a net loss as 49 crore as compared to loss of 841 crore. So a weak set of number of Tata Chemical. Moving to next, Voltas can be in focus, where Voltas reported a revenue at rupees 4,768 crore, which was up by 13.5% year-on-year basis. And if we talk about EBITDA margin, then company reported EBITDA margin at 7% as compared to 4.5%, up by 245 basis point year-on-year basis. So Voltas reported a strong Q4 number. Apart from this, Coal India can be in focus, where Coal India Limited and AM Green Ammonia Private Limited has executed a non-binding MOU with an intent of supplying renewable power to AM Green Ammonia project in Kandala or any other facility from 4.5 gigawatt renewable energy project of Coal India. Moving to next, Lupin can be in focus, where Lupin has launches one of its tablet in the United States. Apart from this, NLC India can be in focus, where a company has incorporated a joint venture with Assam Power Distribution Company Limited under the name of NIRL, Assam Renewable Energy. And lastly, RBL Bank can be in focus, where RBL Bank has appointed Kumar Ashish as a president, head retail assets and collection, and Himanshu Mishra joins as a national head branch banking.
Thank you, Rabindra, for getting us that list of stocks to keep on our radar today. But moving on, Coal India is one that has come out with a mixed set of Q4 earnings, where the revenue has come in slightly better than expectations, whereas margins have been slightly below. On the other hand, net profit has jumped 13% sequentially. Ashesha is joining in to do all the number crunching.
Well, yes, Coal India has reported largely in-line set of numbers. In fact, revenues have come in at about 37,800 crores, which is an uptick of 3% on a sequential basis and better than what the ET Now poll was suggesting. Margins, however, have contracted a tad bit, but profit after tax has come in higher than what the street was expecting on account of higher other income that the company has reported in the quarter gone by. As far as other internals are concerned, offtake has come in at about 201 MT, which is flat on a year-on-year basis, but up by about 4% on a sequential basis. The volumes clearly were on the higher side, but as far as realizations are concerned, blended realizations, that saw a jump of about 3% on a sequential basis, because FSA realizations jumped by about 2% on a sequential basis. So all in all, no complaints over here, largely in line with what the street was working with. However, margins are a tad bit below what the street was working with. Motilal Oswal, in fact, has kept its estimates unchanged for FY26 and 27. In fact, they are penciling in about 8% volume CAGR over the corresponding period, 11% revenue CAGR and 14% EBITDA CAGR. They are maintaining their buy stance with a target price of 480. Aquarius, meanwhile, is not very bullish when it comes to Coal India. They say that market share declined in the quarter gone by. Coal inventory at power plants continues to be on the higher side. They say global coal prices continue to remain sluggish and market share loss. So these are some of the concerns which they have highlighted, because of which they are maintaining their reduced with a target price of 350. But all in all, as far as earnings are concerned, they were largely in line with what the street was working with, although concerns about market share loss and higher coal inventory at power plant continue to be a problem.
Alright, and the earnings were largely in line with the expectations, and that's Coal India for you. But moving on, let's also talk about United Breweries while you're with us, Ashesha. Take us through the earnings fine print when it comes to this one as well, because an inline set of numbers is what you're looking at here as well.
Well, yes, United Breweries has reported strong volume growth in the quarter gone by, despite temporary disruptions that it was facing in select states. In fact, net revenue, net of excise, has come in at about 2,323 crores, which is an uptick of 9% on a year-on-year basis. And margins have also expanded on a year-on-year basis. In fact, they've come in at 8% versus 6.7% that the company had reported same time last year. This is also ahead of what the street was working with. In fact, street expectations were in the range of 7.8 to 7.9%, and margins have come in at 8%. In fact, volume growth was very strong. Consolidated volumes grew by about 5% on a year-on-year basis, and Prestige, that's the segment that they are focusing on. Prestige volume growth has come in at 24% on a year-on-year basis. The company says volume growth has been strong despite disruptions that they were facing in the state of Telangana and duty structure changes that we saw in Karnataka in the quarter gone by. As far as the region-wise performance is concerned, North region reported 3% YOY growth, and Western region reported a strong growth of about 11% on a year-on-year basis. Management commentary on margins continues to remain a little cautious. They say because of the expansion plans that the company has undertaken, margins are likely to be on the slower side for the next couple of quarters. Remember, positive mix driven by price increases in select states also aided growth in the quarter gone by, and more management commentary is expected in the con day. But for now, no complaints for United Breweries. Margins have been better than street estimates at about 8%, although commentary on margins for the outlook going forward continues to remain a little cautious.
Thank you, Ashesha, for getting us all those insights. But let's shift focus to the market then. Now, Vallabh Bhanshali, the chairman at Enam Group, is bullish on India and says that the market will show underlying confidence. He also believes that all sectors will grow rotationally in the next 10 to 15 years, and that India is a growth story for the next 30 years. He also advises to buy good companies in any sector. Let's listen in.
So market is, reflecting two things. It cannot ignore such a volatile global situation. We just saw what happened to Taiwan dollar 2 days back. And, so the currency markets, bond markets, equity markets, I think, I don't know whether you want to talk about this wonderful treaty that India has been able to achieve in an atmosphere of this kind. So market is full of news, and we will have to respond to it. The second part is, of course, that, the India underlying story. And India underlying story, there was some uncertainty a few months back because we didn't know what we were dealing with in terms of trade barriers, etc. Now that we have some visibility, we are far from, having complete visibility. The market is feeling more confident. IMF, World Bank, other bodies have all talked about, India's growth forecast. Some basis points have got shaved off. And also the numbers for last year. We are seeing, uptick on services, uptick on manufacturing. So there's greater confidence that India's story is, unabated. It is continuing. So it's very happy to see that long-term investors are getting that vindication. So market will show that underlying confidence. And at the periphery, in the tactical world, it will have to continue to respond to this news-filled world.
But in terms of the geopolitical uncertainty which was there after the Pahalgam attack, and it lasted for about 2 weeks, which was making some market participants nervous? Not all. Can I say that at least now we know that where the puck is going to move and that veil of uncertainty should now be lifted?
I think, you see, if I can, restate what I said, is that there are these long-term trends, a lot of them reflected in our price levels. And then there are these short-term changes that are happening in the world. Some of these short-term changes have, tremendous potential to impact the long term. And it's not easy to determine what the long term will be because we don't even know the full picture of short term. So trade being one of them, geopolitical realignment being another of them, technology advancement is yet another. So too much is happening, Nikunj, and we will have to deal with it. And therefore, the absolute confidence in long term of our country or long term of the world is definitely under a bit of fog at this point of time. And I think it will not.
All right, then that's some key commentary to start your day right. But tell you what, let's get you some more news and updates from outside the world of stocks. Thick black smoke has risen from the Sistine Chapel's chimney, indicating that the cardinals sealed inside for the conclave have failed to elect a new pope in their first vote. Do remember that the cardinals will be returning to the chapel on Thursday to vote again and will continue to do so until one of them secures a 2/3 majority to be elected pope. Moving
on to US then, Donald Trump has issued a proclamation designating May 8th as a day for the US to celebrate victory in World War II, as countries in Europe already do. Now, cities from London to Moscow are marking the 80th anniversary with parades, flyovers and memorials.
Moving on, India captain Rohit Sharma has bid farewell to Test cricket with immediate effect, drawing the curtain on a storied red ball career. But fans can breathe easy, he's not done yet. The hitman will continue to light up the field in ODIs. That's his favourite hunting ground.
Let's keep it with the sports space then. Punjab Kings will take on Delhi Capitals today. Punjab Kings currently sits in the third place in the standings with 7 wins and 3 losses. On the other side, Delhi Capitals haven't yet picked up their form after a solid first half, with 6 wins and 4 losses in 11 games. And currently, they sit at 5th place in the standings.
Alright, and with that, completely out of time on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now. Thank you so much for tuning in. The market takes all of the action forward.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.